Summer's coming in hot. Literally. If there's one thing I'm not messing around with this summer, it's my deodorant. And Mando deodorant plus sweat control is built for this season. Mando is clinically proven to block odor all day and to control odor for up to 72 hours. It's powerful on pits, but gentle on skin. It helps control sweat too. This isn't your typical drugstore stick. It's a high-performance shield built for you whether you're out grilling in 90-degree temperature or you're working out in the sun. I stocked up on the solid stick and the spray deodorant, and I got my favorite scent, Mount Fuji, to help beat the heat this summer. You can now find Mando in Walmart, Target, and other retailers across the country. But you want the absolute best deal? Go to shopmando.com. I recommend the Mando Starter Pack. It is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products, and free shipping. Plus, as an offer to all new customers, my listeners get 20% off site-wide. All you gotta do is use my code Chael when you visit shopmando.com. Support our show, tell them Chael sent you. Mando has got you covered. Derrick Lewis gets the big win over Teixeira. Ariel Helwani, very famous for the term recency bias. And Ariel has made that such a word that Adam Felters and I now use it, but we use it because it's real. It's a real thing. You know, the last thing you see, look, something's going on at heavyweight. And I told you guys last week, phone calls were made to Tom, where Tom was told he's fighting Cyril. The phone call was made to Cyril where he was told he was fighting Tom. I'm sharing with you purely as conspiracy theory, so something to discuss, that I think in the absence of an official announcement that there is room to run that idea back, which, by the way, is a knee-jerk reaction. There's a number of reasons not to do that match, but all of those reasons tie into failing to turn the page from the Jon Jones chapter, which is problematic because that's a guess by me. They may not be looking to turn the page. Jon is now back in the pool. You could allow Jon into the pool. You could allow him into the organization. You can allow him to do anything you want except call himself the undisputed champion. That way you don't even have to, you don't even have to require that he fight. That is the punishment if you don't fight. You lose your undisputed championship. You lose your participation. You lose your pay-per-view points. And I'm only sharing with you my entire conspiracy of running back Cyril versus Tom is rooted in the idea that Jon doesn't return. If Cyril goes over on Tom, Jon's the champion of the world. And that's the one thing that many people have discounted. Much like if Charles Oliveira had beaten Islam Makhachev, just for example, then everything that you believe and say about Khabib is called into question. Because that match never went down and they competed at the same time. You guys are following this logic, right? So, if you're not, and we understand you're not going to do Jon versus Tom, you can't get that fight to the ring. That has been well established. What are you going to do? I like the idea of Alex. Alex is booked against Ankalaev. They're going to headline in October. Okay, great. So you got Jon off the board. You got Alex off the board. You start to see where you don't really have a choice. You got to go with Cyril, who is extremely problematic. If he beats Tom, Jon Jones is the champion of the world. If he beats Tom and Jon Jones is back, you now got to make Jon Jones versus Cyril, which was very arguably the worst title fight in history, and for sure was the worst heavyweight title fight in history. It for sure was the worst title fight in the last 10 years. But it likely wins the booby prize all the way back in time. I mean, you see where I would say that Cyril is a knee-jerk reaction? You bring in the fact that Cyril skipped a fight because he decided he wanted to go do a movie, which, by the way, was never good enough to even get in the theaters. No offense, but what are you thinking there? You couple that with the fact that Cyril lost his last fight to Volkov. He won a decision, but he lost the fight. I mean, there is no reason why you would go with Cyril. Now, I don't say this to bury Cyril. Cyril's a complete stud. He's handsome and he's a nice guy. Like, people like him. I'm just saying right. You'd have a hard time putting me in there with Tom, and I'm the linear champion. I'm the one that put John's foot on backwards so he can't train for it in the first place. But you'd have a hard time bringing me from the set of The Ultimate Fighter into a linear world title fight, even though logically it makes perfect sense. Do you see where this... So if you have it, but how are you going to get somebody in front of him? Stipe retired. Volkov's already had the fight. Curtis Blades just got in there. I mean, who are you going to put in front of him? Almeida can't draw. I like the idea of Almeida. I think Almeida's got a real good career in front of him. You can't take Almeida to a main event. You can't take him to a world title fight. You can't take him to Madison Square Garden, right? It's like baseball. 3 strikes and you're out. So who are you going to turn to? And you would need a little hook or crook. I'm only suggesting for you with recency bias and based on what we just saw and the landscape of the heavyweight division being a really weird place to be. I mean, it really is a very weird place. You've got to understand, Tom becomes the undisputed champion, but there's no announcement that Tom has to relinquish the interim championship. And you get where that's weird, right? Obviously, he would relinquish it, right? It wouldn't even need saying. Well, yet that's because you can't have an undisputed champion in the presence of an interim champion. It's why the same guy can't be both at the same time. It's the very reason you could not have John and Tom both with belts. You just can't do it. Okay. So you need a little hook or crook. It needs to be in the vein of a second idea, an afterthought. The backup fighter that gets called in. You would need Cyril to have an injury or come down with some reason he can't make the date. But we do see that happen quite often. And he was petrified to fight Francis Ngannou. He was petrified to fight Jon Jones. He had an opportunity to fight Tom and he turned it down. So I have to interpret that he's petrified. Like there is room to believe that something would happen. And in the event that it does, I think Derrick's your guy. I think Derrick's your guy. Some kid online, I got to give him credit, went and took their records. Went and took Tom's wins. I think Tom's had 6 total wins. If I'm wrong, it's 7. But he took all of his wins. And then he took Derrick Lewis's record. And everybody that Tom beat, Derrick's already beat. And there was like one exception to that. You know, there was a Stipe, or there was some exception in there where they had fought. But added to Derrick's list was, just for example, Francis Ngannou. Derrick's list was a lot longer, but there was some speed bumps that comes with having a lot longer. I mean, not for nothing, but it was a very compelling thing to look at, and that matchup is interesting. And I'm not overly trying to sell you on Derrick and Tom. I'm reminding you of the strange state of affairs that we're in. And if you want any chance of a return of Jon Jones, and I get you guys are a little frustrated. I get that right now you're not seeking out a return of Jon Jones. But if you would like any hope of a return, Aspinall's got to win. If Aspinall loses to Derrick Lewis, they're never making Jones versus Derrick Lewis, just for example. They're never making Cyril versus Jon Jones, just for example. They're never making Volkov versus Jon Jones, just for example. Well, we all sit in limbo and we wonder what's going to happen with Jon, which doesn't come down to what Jon wants to do. It comes down to, do we need Jon? The answer is yes in one scenario, and it's for Tom. And anything short of that puts the nail in the coffin of the suggested retirement by Jon. But I do think in the short term and with recency bias, I like the idea of Derrick versus Tom more than any heavyweight fight I can think of.